Hello, fellow orchid lovers. It's Danielle here. I would like to share an update on my Tolumnias. So if you've been following me for any length of time, you know that I have not really been successful with my Tolumnias over the years. I have been growing them for a while, but in the couple of years that I've been growing them, I've only successfully bloomed one, and that was at least 2 years ago. So as you can see, there have been improvements because I do have 3 in bloom, but I have made quite a few mistakes with these particular plants while I was trying to figure out what works for them. So in my old environment, I really didn't have a lot of really good light available. And so some of my more light loving plants got that good light and the Tolumnias really kind of suffered. So I wasn't able to satisfy their light requirements in my other living environment. But now that we've moved, I have a lot of light available because in the grow room, as you know, my windows face south. And so there's a lot of light that comes through the window. And while that's a good thing, it's also not great when you burn them instead of giving them the right level. So I've lost at least one since I moved here because I increased the light level way too quickly and I killed at least one of them. I don't remember exactly how many I had, but I know that there's at least one of them that's no longer here. So that's disappointing, but I kind of learned my lesson. So I'm hoping that the lessons that I've learned, you know, I can now successfully get them to grow. And like I said, there are 3 that are spiking. So I think I may have learned my lesson. So I learned my lesson as far as light levels are concerned. There is kind of like a sweet spot where they're happy. And the way that you kind of know what that sweet spot is, or at least in my environment, when they get dark like this and they start to desiccate, that's a bad sign. I gave them way too much light. Ideal light levels are when you have something more along the lines of this, where you get that slight purple and some spots, but overall it's green and the growths are nice and chunky and healthy. So I figured out a spot in the grow room that they get that amount of light, where it's not too excessive, but it's enough to now trigger them to bloom. So just gonna go through them really quickly. Some of them I don't have tags for because in my efforts to grow them properly, I kind of did get frustrated at some point and I did not keep track of the tags, and so the tags kind of got separated. So I have some tags, but I don't know which ones they belong to. And then I also, based on blooms, have guessed on 2 other ones. So we'll just go through them really quickly. This particular plant, I did burn a good portion of it, and so I only have a single fan left. Its root system is not incredibly vigorous, and so therefore I don't know if it's gonna make it, but as you can see, it does have a few green roots. So hopefully it will put out another fan soon. So the way that I water my Tolumnias is, as you can see, they're in a cup. Now, it looks very dirty, but it's just because I mist them every day, and that's kind of like the mist that gathers and kind of, you know, gives that water marking on the glass. They could use to be cleaned out because there is a fair amount of algae in the bottom. But I put the rocks in there because once a week I give them fertilized water. And I let the water touch their roots, and then I drain it off so that it's just kind of floating around in the rocks and not really touching the roots. It's kind of just providing humidity. And then once a day I go in and I take a spray bottle and I just kind of mist the plant and the roots. So that's all it really gets throughout the week. It's just once a day, it gets a nice fine mist, and then once a week it gets a little bit of fertilizer. And as you can see, the leaves are appropriately colored. They have a green color to them. They have the purple spots on them. So this plant is getting the right amount of light. So hopefully now that we've figured out what's too much light, she'll grow another fan. And I don't unfortunately have an ID on her. She'd have to bloom for us to figure that out. So that's something to look forward to. This plant, I also don't have an ID. I'm pretty confident that it is the Jarrett firm white, just remembering what size the plant was and that. But I'm not 100% sure until it blooms, so I'm not going to put the tag with it. So this plant did get a fair amount of light, did get a fair amount of die off because I burnt it, but it also, the back side of it did not. So it's still fine. It's still alive. It's still growing. It's still got a pretty good root system in there. It's putting out some new fans. The new fans are not desiccating and they are the appropriate color. So we are giving her the right light now. So hopefully we can move forward and, you know, maybe eventually she will give me a spike and I'll be able to figure out what plant this is. So that's her. This one, I'm fairly certain that this one is the Cocoa Drop, the Jarrett Flyer Cocoa Drop. Just remembering again what the plant looked like. She's just got a bunch of little fans, so I think she's probably a little farther off blooming than some of the other ones, but she's pretty healthy considering. Again, she's the front part of her died back, so she is missing like half of herself, but she is putting out a bunch of little fans, so I'm hoping that she's going to rebound. The fans are healthy. The leaves are nice and fleshy. They have the appropriate color, and she does have a pretty extensive root system. I did just water them yesterday, so some of the roots are a little dark because they're still a little damp, but which again, I'm sorry about the dirty glass. I should, you know, I'll clean them the next time I film them. But it's not like it's, you know, it's just because I do miss them, so it gets the watermarks on the glass. So again, I won't put the tag in her until she blooms. So this is a new orchid, new Tolumnia to my collection. This was actually given to me by a friend. She gave me two orchids. She gave me a Phalaenopsis and she gave me this Tolumnia. So I don't have a tag on her, unfortunately. So I won't know what she is until she blooms. I'll probably need your help when she does bloom to figure out what she is. But she, her root system was pretty dead. But she is growing new growths and she's putting out some new roots. You can see the white roots there. So, and that's pretty extensive. So all over the plant, she's putting out some new growths, some new fans. And she actually can tolerate a fair amount of light. She's a little farther forward than some of my other Tolumnias, and she's not getting that really purple color. So I think she's doing pretty good. Again, I am being very careful. I check on these Tolumnias every day to make sure that they're not getting too much light and that I'm being, so as you can see there, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for green overall, but with speckles of purple on it. So hopefully she'll bloom soon and we can get an ID on her, but she's a pretty big plant. So I'm thinking a spike could be possible in the next year or so. So we'll keep our eye on that together. My most pitiful plant, I do actually know what it is because I never separated the tag. This is Tolumnia Kalapana Red. Now this plant has always struggled and then I burnt it. So when I got it, it wasn't a really great plant. But you know, it was definitely in a better way than it is now. And then I put it in really strong light and I burnt it. And so pretty much, you know, like 2/3 of the plant is now gone. So now I only have two really small fans, and the latest fan that they put out is not, it's not going to save it. Let's just put it that way. And the root system is really bad. So I don't know how much longer this plant is going to live. If it's going to live, it's not looking great. So lesson learned about that. Now this plant, I'm really surprised that it spiked because it is a single fan. So, yeah, I'm really surprised that it did spike because I didn't expect, I mean, it is a very healthy fan. Like the leaves are very fleshy. It's got a great color to it. It's got a really good root system for a single fan. But I didn't expect it to spike, but it did. Only 3 blooms, but pretty, really pretty pink color. I'm assuming it is this one. Again, not 100% sure. I'm just going off of what the pictures online look like in comparison to the tags that I have, and I'm guessing that it's the Jarrett Flyer Carnation. So that's my guess. But I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I did separate the tags, and now I have to guess. But really pretty. Excited to see blooms on this one. and excited to see it grow. The next one that I have blooms on is this one. Again, I separated the tag, so I'm guessing what this is. I am guessing that it is the Jarrett Firm Snow White. Now, I know typically Snow White has spots on the lip, but if I'm remembering correctly, the Snow White has bloomed for me before, and it did not have spots on the lip because I'm in a cooler environment, and so it just gets this pink flush to it and no spots. I think that that's what I'm remembering. So I think that this is the Snow White. So anyways, really pretty blooms, much darker on the back side as far as the pink is concerned. So that's interesting. An extensive spike considering, you know, what I put these poor plants through. She seems to be not holding it against me too much. And the plant itself is really healthy. It didn't get as badly burnt as some of the other ones did. And so it didn't take her as long to bounce back. And she does have a really good root system. So again, I'm just once a week, I just put the water in there with the fertilizer, let that sit for about a half an hour, and then I drain the water down so it's just in the rocks and provides humidity. And once a day, I just spray her roots with a sprayer. And that seems to be working. It seems to be what they require. I mean, I tried everything. I put them on sticks. I put them on mounts. I would, you know, give them a jacuzzi bath once a day. Like I tried everything. It just wasn't working. Now I saved the best for last. This one is officially my favorite. I think that that is gorgeous. I just love it. Now they first bloom out much darker, the lip. It's like really red. But then as they're open for a while, the red fades and the polka dots become more prominent. And I love a polka dot. So this one is definitely far and above my favorite. This bloom opened upside down, so that's interesting. But it looks like it's trying to branch as well. So this spike may be around for quite a while. This one has been open for quite a while, weeks. I don't know the exact date that they opened, but I posted a video, I want to say a month or two ago, and it was open. So it's been open for a while, which I love. I love when things stick around, especially when you work so hard to get them to bloom. So this is Tolumnia Jarrett Flyer M05. And this was 2 fans, I believe, when I got it. And it grew this fan, and that's the one that bloomed. It does have a really good root system. And that seems to be the key to the blooming. If the root system is good, it seems to be able to bloom out. If the root system is poor, even if the plant seems like a big plant, it doesn't bloom. At least that's how it seems to be in my environment. But I am in love with that. That is gorgeous. So it seems like I've finally figured out how to water them appropriately, what kind of light levels are appropriate for them, because they are blooming. The ones that are healthy enough, that have a good enough root system, are blooming. And the ones that I've either burnt or I got as from someone that I know, they seem to be growing on and not dying, not actively dying, which is good. So, you know, it's really encouraging signs. I think I've learned my lesson with them. I think I've figured out what works for them in my environment, which is very encouraging. So I hope that you guys enjoyed that update on my Tolumnias. I am going to try to post once a week an update on a certain portion of my collection. I'll do my Cattleyas, I'll do my Tolumnias, I'll do my Phalaenopsis. The Phalaenopsis I might have to break up into 2 sections because I do have a lot of Phalaenopsis. But I hope you guys are all enjoying your winter so far and not getting too much snow or too much cold if you do live in that type of environment. And I will talk to you all next time.